One of the great things about MantisProperty is that it allows you to set up unlimited numbers of user accounts under your main account. These user accounts can then be set up with specific permissions or restrictions if you want to restrict your users to certain areas or certain listings or contacts within the CRM. In this video, I'm going to run through how to create a new user account, how to give them login details, and then how to manage those user accounts and permissions. So to create or access your user accounts, simply go to Preferences and then User Accounts. That will then bring up this screen showing you all your existing accounts. If you have a lot of accounts that you want to search on by name or email, you can search up here. But for now, we're going to create a new account. So you simply click Add New Account. In here, you put in the first name, last name, and email address, which are mandatory for a user account. For the landline phone number and mobile, you can put those in as well. These will be used if this user account is then being attached to listings, and this information then flows through as the agent for that listing when it flows through to the portals and websites. At the bottom here, you have menu listing types, so you can restrict that account to access specific menu types. So for instance, if you have an agent that only deals in sales, you can untick rentals, holiday rentals, business, etc. So that way, when they go into their listings menu, they only see the types of listings you've allowed them access to. These options here are to do with the notifications. So automatically notify of new listings by agency. If that's ticked, then whenever the agency adds a new listing, anyone from the agency adds a listing, it will email a copy of that listing and a notification to the agent. So that way you can tick this on all of your salespeople so they're all aware of when new listings have gone live. These three options down here are to do with new leads that come in. So if you tick the automatically notify of new website or API leads via email, then when that's ticked, if a new lead comes in through your website or through the API, it will email a notification of that new lead to the salesperson or the agent. If the automatically notify of new portal leads via email is ticked, then it'll do the same thing if any leads come in from any portals such as realestate.com, Domain, or any of the other portals. And the final one here is automatically notify of new leads via SMS. So that way, if any new leads come in via the website or via the portals, it can send an SMS to that agent to let them know that they have a new lead. So this is a great way for them to get an SMS notification as soon as a new lead comes in without them needing to check their email or log into MantisProperty to check for new leads. Now this option here to allow login, you tick that if you want the user to be able to actually log into their account and manage their own listings or do other things within the CRM. The only reason you wouldn't tick this is if you're just wanting salespeople information to show on listings, but you don't want them to actually have separate logins to manage those listings. So when you tick allow login, it opens up all those extra fields. So obviously here is the password, so you can set their initial password. When they log in, they can change their password at any time. The lock account option, that can be used if you want to lock access to the account. So you can give them access via a password and ticking the allow login. But if you tick the lock account box, it will stop them from logging in. So you can do this at times if you want to set up a user but you don't want them to be able to log in yet, or if you need to block access to a user but you don't want to delete their details or take away their login, you can just do that. If they try to log in, it'll just come up that their account is locked and they need to contact the office manager. The next option is require two-factor authentication. We always recommend to have this switched on. This protects your account from hackers being able to force their way into your account. Even if they have your password, they still won't be able to log in. So the two-factor authentication is basically a little app that you install on your mobile phone, and that just randomly generates a code that lasts for about 20 seconds. So when you go to log in, it'll just ask you for that code on your phone, and you enter that code in, and that'll let them in. So that means that someone can't log into your account unless they actually have access to your phone at that specific time. This is one of the reasons why we've allowed MantisProperty to have unlimited accounts at no extra charge. So that way you can set up accounts for every single one of your users, and they can have two-factor authentication switched on. So that way everything is nice and secure and protected against hackers getting into the system, even if they do manage to get the passwords of your users. The next option is enable two-factor authentication remember device option. So if this is ticked, what this means is that when someone first logs in from a device and they enter in their two-factor authentication code, it will then remember that device and remember that that device is authorized to log into that account. So that means the next time they go to log in, it won't ask them for the two-factor authentication. It'll just accept their username and password. So this is handy for if someone's using a computer or laptop all the time to log into their account. If you tick this, then it means that they don't have to go into their two-factor authentication program to get their code to log in every single time, while still protecting the account from hackers, because if someone tries to log in from another device, it will ask for the two-factor authentication. The web designer option, if you tick this, then it will give the user access to only things that a web designer should have access to, which is basically the API integration, documentation, and configuration. So if you have a third-party web designer or programmer working on your website, you can give them an account and tick that box there, and they won't be able to get into your listings or into your trust accounts or any sensitive information, and they won't be able to change any of your data, but they'll be able to access the information that they need to connect up your MantisProperty account to your website. The trust accounts option here, if you tick that, then the user will only have access to the trust accounting system. So this is often used if you have a auditor that you want to give, or an accountant that you want to give access to your trust accounts, but you don't want them to actually change anything or access any other information apart from the trust accounting system. Then you can tick that and give them a username and password for that. The property management access option. So if you have this ticked, then this user will have access to the property management section, which is basically the tenancy applications and then managing the tenancies and everything involved in that. This option is good for if you're an agency that does both sales and rentals. You can just untick that for your sales agents, so they can't get into the property management area, but they can get into the sales area to add and manage their listings. Full admin access, basically once that's ticked, then that user has access to everything regardless of what the other settings are. So they have access to all the contacts, the property management, the trust accounting. They can change any of the settings on their account. So usually you would give this access to an office manager or someone in a management position within your agency. And then restricted listings. This is an option that you can have for one or more of your agents. And what this does is, if this is ticked, then the agent can create a listing, but they can't actually make it go live. What happens is when they go to make it go live, it goes into a pending status, and then someone with admin access can log in, see any listings that are pending approval, and they can check those and then press a button to make them live. So you can use this feature if you're an agency where you want to allow your salespeople to create their listings, but you want an office manager or someone else in management to check the listings before they go live. If this is unticked, then that allows the users to create their listings and make them live straight away. In the contacts view, you have two options here for your users. The view all contacts means that they can view all of the contacts within the CRM, or view only contacts created or assigned to this person means that they'll only be able to view contacts that have been specifically assigned to them. So this means any contacts that they've created, or any contacts that have been created automatically when a lead comes in for any of their listings. Admin users can also go into contacts and they can assign them to one or more users if you're using this feature. The same thing goes for the listings view. View all listings means that they can access all of the listings in the CRM, or view only listings created or assigned to this person means that they can only view listings that they've created or that listings have been created by an admin and have listed that user as a listing assistant or an agent on that listing. So that covers the initial setup of this user. So I'm going to go ahead and just create this user, and then I'll show you what other options you have available. So once a user has been created, it will show it here, and you can click on edit to go into that user. So as you can see here, here's all the different options that we had before, but it also opens up these tabs for some extra options for this user. So the first one is profile. Here you can upload a photo for that user, and you can also put in a profile. So this is used when you're using the digital proposal system. And when a digital proposal goes out, it will automatically use the photo and the profile of that agent when that agent is the one connected to that proposal. The photo is also used if you're using MantisProperty with your website via the API, or if Mantis has built your website for you, then that's the photo that will show on the listings. This is also the photo that will show on brochures if you've elected to show the agent photos on your brochures and window cards. The next section here is the bookings calendar. So this allows you to manage the bookings calendar and allow people to schedule appointments. There's another video on this that shows you how the bookings calendar works and how to set everything up in that. So if you're interested, check that video out. The next option is security. So this is where your two-factor authentication security is. So this is where you can create your two-factor authentication, you can reset it, that sort of thing. Admin users can come in and reset two-factor authentication if the user has lost their mobile phone or their device. And the final tab is integrations. So this is where you can integrate your user account with your email account and your calendar account if you're using Office 365 or Gmail or G Suite. So you just simply click connect account and follow the prompts there. It's nice and easy. Once that's connected up, then any emails you send to or receive from any of your contacts will automatically be recorded on those contacts so that your agents can bring up a contact and see any emails they've received from that user or sent to that user at any time. The other option here is for REI Forms Live or RealWorks. So if you're using REI Forms or RealWorks, you can click on Authorize here, and that will authorize the connection to that account. And then that allows that agent to access any forms that you've got in your RealWorks or your REI Forms account. And that's all integrated with MantisProperty as far as sending forms, DocuSign, tracking when they've been signed, all that sort of thing. So that covers everything for the user accounts and how to set it up. As you can see, it's quite flexible, gives you a lot of power over what permissions you're going to allow each of your users. And as I said before, you have unlimited users on all MantisProperty accounts. So feel free to set up as many as you need for each of your users.